Despite memory fade and mind dysfunction, dementia residents in dementia units can still think. They can still do crosswords and quizzes, pointing to the fact that they are thinking through a different pathway. Now that pathway is drawn on with IQ and EQ, for example, emotional intelligence, intellectual intelligence, Indigenous intelligence. And this intelligence can be trained, as I've gone through in these two books that I've written, The Resident's Voice from a Dementia Unit and The Resident's Rise from a Dementia Unit. At length I've explained how people with dementia in dementia units can be helped and taught how to think through their intellect, which helps them compensate for a dysfunctional memory with a failing mind. So, for example, for dementia residents in dementia units, there are activities. The diversional therapist or the activity coordinator takes these activities daily, and many of them are very encouraging and do help intellectual function and get the cognition and the intellect working, especially those activities like the newspaper reading in the morning, word games, group quizzes, etc. When the dementia resident is engaging, listening, absorbing, imbibing, getting their cognition going, that's all working the intellect. So these activities are excellent for this, but it can still be stepped up to a greater degree. As a relative, bringing in the newspaper, or better still, the subscription for the dementia resident, especially if they've been a keen reader of the newspaper, is vital for cognition, because reading is a big factor, plays an enormous part in enabling cognition to be activated, stimulated, and maintained. So reading a newspaper can be 2-3 hours a day. So that's a lot of cognition if the person reads the articles right through. Another way to be able to establish cognition is through magazines, not to such a great degree, depending on the magazine. If it's a National Geographic, that's going to have more cognition in it than a Woman's Weekly. But surprisingly, I have noticed that those keen readers in dementia units that go through the Women's Weekly with a fine tooth comb do come up with some very interesting points. So it's the reading factor and thinking behind the words. That's really what gets the thinking engaged. Now, other ways to be able to get the thinking going is the television in the evening, international news, local news, national news, international news. If the person's always enjoyed listening to the news and knowing what's going on in the world, as this generation, the elderly generation in dementia units, they love every night they'll sit and watch the news. It's like a standard after dinner or during dinner. So to continue that in the unit, to get people set up, to have a good seat, to be able to hear clearly, to have the hearing aids in at a volume that they can, all hear, and so they can see the screen. All of these things need to be in place so that they can have a good experience when they're listening to the news in the evening. And that it's quiet, which it generally is, fortunately, in the evening. The day is very loud, a lot of noise in the day in the dementia unit, but the evening is quite quiet after dinner. So it is a good time for the person to be able to sit and listen to the news. So in any way that you can help your relative with cognition, bringing in magazines, getting them the newspaper subscription, and also at the actual facilities, getting a little library set up so that there are magazines and photographic books for dementia residents to be able to flick through, read and enjoy is vital, the outside coming in. So I've written about these, as I've mentioned, in both these books, The Resident's Voice from a Dementia Unit and The Resident's Rise, both from a dementia unit, at length on Amazon, soft copy, hard copy and ebook, which is becoming more popular lately, and my website pietavalentine.com, which has just been updated, my website, with the radio interviews, homepage, Kate Delaney, America, like interesting interviews in terms of the questions they ask, Geraldine Tugalove, Australia, and Susan Harris, also America. So in terms of the background of this work and how it's come about, it's been a lifelong effort. Fortunately, it's coming to fruition. So all that's explained in the website if you'd like to know more about that. So thank you for your viewing and your likes, and please subscribe and pass on these links, which I know you're doing, but thank you, and keep it up for this little platform so that we can help those wonderful dementia residents out there and those caring for them. Thank you.